He never lied, but he never chose her either. Daniel's side of the goodbye. Have you ever loved someone but stayed quiet? Because you thought love would be enough, even without the words. Have you ever watched someone slip away? Not because you hurt them, but because you never showed them. You were willing to fight for them. Tonight, we step into the other side of a love story. We already heard Naomi's quiet goodbye. But what about Daniel, the man who held her hand, who stayed, who smiled, but never once said, "I want a future with you"? This is not a story about betrayal or manipulation. It is about hesitation, about silence, about a man who loved but never moved. And by the time he realized what he lost, she was already gone. Daniel never lied to Naomi. He never made promises he couldn't keep, but maybe that was the worst part. He never promised. He just stayed. 3 years of gentle mornings, laughter in the kitchen, weekend road trips. And yet, he never said us. When he spoke about the future, Naomi never pressured him, never asked for a ring or a timeline. She just loved him quietly, completely. And Daniel thought that was enough. Until one night, on their balcony, the question came, "Do you see me in your future?" Daniel froze, not because he didn't care, but because he knew. He didn't have the answer she needed. "I don't even know if I see myself there." That was all he said, and she didn't cry, didn't accuse. She just nodded, smiled, stayed the night, let him hold her like nothing had changed. But in the morning, her keys were on the counter, and she was gone. No dramatic exit, no revenge, just silence, and the weight of everything he didn't say. Some people leave without warning. Others leave after waiting too long. Naomi didn't leave because Daniel was a bad man. She left because she deserved to be chosen. Not just tolerated. Daniel's biggest mistake was not cruelty, but comfort. He thought love could survive without direction, that small gestures could replace big decisions. But Naomi needed more than coffee in the morning. She needed someone who could say, "I see you in every part of my future." And Daniel couldn't give that, not because he didn't feel it, but because he didn't know how to speak it. And in love, silence can hurt louder than words. His regret wasn't just losing her. It was realizing that someone so gentle could still walk away without slamming the door. Because when you don't choose someone again and again, eventually they stop waiting to be chosen. Daniel's side of the story hit different, because it's not about what he did, but what he didn't do. You holding without. Speaking commented, he held her body every night, but never held her future. That was the real heartbreak. 6K likes. Exactly. Sometimes presence without promise feels like absence in disguise. She deserved direction shared. Naomi didn't need the words, "I love you." She needed, "I'm not going anywhere." 9K likes. And Daniel never said it, even when his heart wanted to. You thus. Quiet Pain wrote, "This kind of man doesn't cheat. He just watches you slip away because he never moved." 2K likes. And sometimes stillness is a slow form of letting go. You, the ones who hesitate, said, by the time he realized he loved her, she was already halfway healed. 8K likes. And maybe that's why he never reached out, because he knew she finally saw her worth. Daniel's story is not rare. Too many people stay quiet, too afraid to say what they feel, until the person who waited stops waiting. So if you love someone, say it, show it, choose them loudly. While they're still within reach, because not every goodbye comes from betrayal. Some come from silence that lasted too long. She read one message and knew it was over. Reddit story. Have you ever looked at someone and realized you loved them more for their consistency than for their passion? Have you ever stayed in a relationship because it was safe, predictable, familiar? Tonight, we enter a story not of betrayal in the loud sense, but the kind that sneaks in quietly between unspoken words and glances that no longer linger. This is not a story about a dramatic affair. It's about a single message, a pause in a conversation, and a woman who finally realized that love isn't something you should have to chase, even from someone who never walked away. This is Julia's story of stillness, of silence, and the moment she knew it was time to leave. Julia and Nathan had been together for 5 years. They shared a home, a rhythm, a life built more on habits than on passion. Nathan wasn't romantic, but he was reliable. He never missed her doctor's appointments, always brought the right almond milk, and fixed anything that broke. And that kind of love can be enough. Until one day, it's not. One quiet Saturday afternoon, Julia was transferring files on Nathan's laptop when a notification popped up from an old messaging app. No name, no emojis, just one sentence. Still thinking about last night, I hate that I miss you this much. She didn't open it. She didn't need to, because when you've loved someone long enough, you know when something doesn't belong. That one message told her everything, not because it was explicit, but because it wasn't. That night, she made his favorite dinner. They ate like normal, watched TV like normal, slept in the same bed. And just before she closed her eyes, she turned to him and asked, "Do you still love me? Or are you just here because it's familiar?" Nathan paused, and in that silence, Julia heard everything he didn't say. The next morning, she woke up early, cleaned the kitchen, folded the shirts she had bought for him. One by one, she left her key on the table next to a note. "That message didn't break me. Your silence did. Because when I have to ask if I'm still loved, I already know the answer." Then she walked out without saying goodbye. Because sometimes, when someone doesn't fight for you, that is the clearest goodbye of all. Some breakups are loud. Some come with screams, with slammed doors, and broken things. But others are so quiet, you almost don't notice they've already happened. Julia didn't leave because she found a message. She left because the message confirmed what she had felt for months, that she was no longer being loved. She was simply being tolerated. Nathan didn't cheat. Not in the way people define it, but he gave pieces of himself to someone who wasn't her, and worst of all, he had nothing left to say. When she asked him to stay, it's easy to think betrayal requires action, but sometimes the deepest hurt comes from inaction, from silence, from the look that says nothing, when you are begging to be seen. Julia's strength wasn't in catching him. It was in choosing herself before she lost what was left of her voice. In a home where love used to speak, but now only whispered goodbyes. Julia's story moved so many because it reminded us that sometimes you don't need proof, you just need honesty. And when you don't get it, you choose peace instead. She didn't need. Proof commented, "A woman doesn't need to read the full message. She already knows when she's no longer chosen." 2K likes. Exactly when your heart feels forgotten, even silence sounds like shouting. You silence. Spoke, louder shared. That pause, when she asked if he still loved her. That was the betrayal. 8K likes. Because in that moment, he didn't lie. He just didn't love her enough to answer. You, not the text. But the tone wrote, he didn't lose her to a message. He lost her to months of quiet detachment. Chapter 7. 9K likes. And that's the slowest kind of goodbye. The kind that ends you one silent day at a time. You, Julia walked. With grace said, she didn't explode. She didn't demand. She just left. That's what dignity looks like. 4K likes. And that's the power of knowing your worth, even when someone else forgot it. Julia's story is a reminder that not all heartbreak begins with betrayal. Some begin with stillness, with distance, with a partner who forgets that love needs to be spoken. And when that happens, you don't need a fight. You don't need a breakdown. You just need to walk away, with your head high and your heart finally free. She found a ring in his drawer, but it wasn't hers. Sophie's quiet goodbye. Reddit story. Have you ever found something that was supposed to bring you joy, but instead shattered you in silence? Have you ever touched a future that was never meant for you? Tonight, we step into a quiet heartbreak, one that wasn't written in a fight or screamed in betrayal, but hidden in a drawer, inside a velvet box with someone else's name on it. This is the story of Sophie, a woman who didn't get left, didn't get lied to, she just found the truth. In a ring that should have been hers, but wasn't. Sophie and Ryan had been together for nearly 4 years. They were building a life, weekend grocery runs, planning future trips, talking about someday, like it was almost here. So when Sophie opened his drawer one morning and saw the ring box, her heart jumped. She wasn't snooping, just folding clothes. She smiled, hands shaking. She opened it, and her breath caught. It was beautiful. Elegant, but not her. Not her taste, not her style, not anything they had ever talked about. Still, she held on to hope until she saw the receipt tucked underneath the dated 6 months ago, before their anniversary, before she noticed his shift, his distance, his sudden absence behind his eyes. And in that moment, she knew the ring wasn't for her. It never had been that night. She didn't say anything, just asked during dinner, "Do you think about marrying me?" Ryan looked caught off guard, shrugged, said, "Eventually, haven't really thought about it." Sophie smiled, nodded, finished her meal. Because when you already know the truth, you stop needing their words. The next morning, she packed her bag, left a note. "You don't owe me an explanation, but I deserve more than a placeholder. I hope she says yes, because I deserve someone who never made me wonder." She closed the door with a soft click and never looked back. Some heartbreaks are not caused by what someone says, but by what they didn't say. Sophie didn't find betrayal, she found clarity. In the quietest of places, Ryan didn't lie, didn't cheat. He just loved someone else and never had the courage to admit it. And Sophie wasn't left behind. She chose to walk because a ring meant for someone else isn't something you compete with. It's something you release. It's easy to scream when you're hurt, harder to walk away in silence. But the strength in Sophie's story is not in confrontation, it's in acceptance. She didn't ask, "Who is she?" She didn't beg, "Why not me?" She simply knew that love that hesitates isn't love that deserves to stay. Let's hear what the community had to say, because heartbreak like this happens in real life. More than we talk about, she found. The Truth commented, she didn't need to catch him cheating. The ring was enough. 903K likes, exactly. Sometimes it's not what they hide, it's what they never give you. But not my ring. Not my future shared. The receipt hurt more than the ring. It had a date, and it didn't include her. 8K likes, time tells the truth, even when people don't. She chose. Herself wrote, she didn't ask who, she didn't scream, she just left. That's power. 4K likes, and that's the kind of ending that feels like a beginning. You, the quietest, breakups said. She wasn't dumped, she discovered, and that's a deeper kind of grief. 8K likes, because when you leave without a fight, you carry all the unanswered questions with you. Sophie's story is a reminder that not every goodbye comes with a betrayal. Sometimes it comes with a box, a ring, and the quiet realization that you were never the one they were planning for. And when that moment comes, you don't need to wait for a reason. You just need to remember, your worth was never meant to be found in someone else's drawer.